A Hollywood actress named Olivia is enjoying a swim, completely unaware that two men have slipped a drug into her drink. After taking a sip, she starts to lose consciousness, and the men prepare to take advantage of her. But before they can do anything, Olivia's body suddenly goes into violent convulsions. Red veins begin spreading all over her skin, and within moments, she dies on the spot. Even the two thugs panic and run away, because they clearly had no idea the drug would cause something like this. The case is immediately taken over by the Indian government. A doctor suspects Olivia died from CDI, or combined drug intoxication, after two different substances are found in her system. One of them is LSD, which can cause hallucinations. But the second substance is still unknown, and researchers are now trying to identify it in the lab. The story then shifts to a simple woman named Yashoda, who is at a clinic for a pregnancy checkup. The doctor tells her that her 3-month-old fetus is healthy, then once again offers her a chance to join a surrogate mother program, where she would eventually hand the baby over to another family. At the facility, Yashoda would receive special treatment, and on top of that, she would be paid a huge amount of money if she agrees to give her baby to a wealthy family. Half of the payment would even be given to her before she leaves. But just as Yashoda is about to go home, a nurse quietly tells her the truth. Her womb is actually very weak, and there is a chance she may never be able to get pregnant again. According to the nurse, the doctor and the staff have all been paid to lie to women like her. The nurse only reveals this because Yashoda reminds her of her own daughter. Even so, Yashoda still decides to take the offer, because this is the only way she can get a large amount of money quickly. She desperately needs it to pay for her younger sister Brinda's surgery. The next morning, half of Yashoda's payment is delivered by a man pretending to be a household gas worker. He tells her to get ready in 5 minutes because the pickup car is already waiting outside. Yashoda leaves the bag of money with her cousin so it can be used for Brinda's operation. Then once she gets into the car, she is told to swallow a handful of pills. They turn out to be sleeping tablets, meant to keep her from knowing the route to the facility, and as the car disappears into the unknown, her fate is sealed. This is Yashoda.
Yashoda!
Somewhere else, a famous supermodel named Arushi is attending an event. Afterward, her wealthy boyfriend Shiv picks her up because the two of them are heading somewhere together. But tragedy strikes on the way. A crash happens, the car explodes, and both of them are killed instantly. The shocking news quickly spreads everywhere, leaving people wondering whether this was really just an accident or the beginning of something much darker. The next morning, a police officer named Rishi visits the autopsy doctor, who reveals that the couple did not die from the explosion itself, but from suffocation. The blast, it turns out, was caused by a malfunction in the car's airbag. Something about the case feels off to Rishi, so he suggests bringing in an expert named Vasudev, a police academy trainer. His superior, Balaram, agrees. At the same time, Yashoda wakes up and finds herself in a luxurious room inside the facility. She has been dressed in elegant clothes and given an identification bracelet. From her window, she can see what looks like a city view, along with pigeons perched on iron bars. Not long after, the owner of the facility arrives. Her name is Madhu, and she thanks Yashoda for joining the program. She explains that Yashoda's child will be given to a wealthy billionaire family who cannot have children and will guarantee a good life for the baby. Yashoda is assigned a personal handler named Vinny, who will always be by her side, while Dr. Gotham is responsible for monitoring her pregnancy every day. Everything in the facility is designed to cater to her needs, and she is told she can press an emergency button anytime she requires assistance. Later, Yashoda quietly places a bindi on the mirror. Vinny then arrives with a change of clothes and takes her to the ultrasound room. She reminds Yashoda to follow a strict routine, to eat properly, practice yoga, sleep on time, and never wander around the facility. Soon after, Yashoda undergoes a checkup with Dr. Gotham. At lunchtime, Yashoda is presented with a wide variety of food, but she has to scan her identity bracelet first. She is then grouped with other pregnant women named Teju, Leela, Kajal, and Jenny. Among them, Teju is the most dominant and immediately shows her arrogance. She prevents Yashoda from eating and orders her to fetch cigarettes from a storage room located in Zone 2, an area strictly off-limits for patients. Through the CCTV cameras, a guard notices Yashoda entering the restricted area. Just as he is about to approach her, Dr. Gotham reaches her first. Yashoda quickly makes up an excuse, saying she wanted to retrieve a dress belonging to Brinda from her bag because she misses her sister. Despite this, Gotham does not allow it and escorts her back to her room. Elsewhere, Vasudev continues his investigation on the burned car and concludes that the incident was not an accident, but a planned murder. He explains to Rishi and Balaram that airbags are triggered by specific chemical reactions, including one involving silicon dioxide. However, the killer had removed these chemicals from the airbags, ensuring that Arushi and Shiv would die from suffocation before the explosion ever occurred. Following this lead, Rishi, Vasudev, and the police team search Arushi's home. They discover an endorsement contract tied to a beauty cream brand, which she would receive if she won the Miss India competition. They also find the last email Arushi opened, sent by someone called the Eagle, who is likely a private investigator. Inside the email is a password-protected video file. Once they manage to unlock it, they learn that the Eagle had warned Arushi not to sign the contract with a beauty cream brand called Kraft, because it contained a suspicious substance that had yet to be identified. After that, Rishi and Vasudev meet Sonu, the owner of the Kraft Beauty Company, hoping to get detailed information about the ingredients used in her product. But Sonu refuses to provide anything right away, insisting that the police should go through proper procedures first. It is then revealed that her father is Sudhama, the Minister of Women and Child Development. On top of that, India's Drug Regulatory Authority has already approved Kraft for public distribution, making the situation even more complicated. Once they track down the Eagle's residence, the team heads there to gather more clues. But when they arrive, they discover that the Eagle was murdered 2 days earlier. As they search the place, they find a hidden box inside a freezer containing a sample of the Kraft beauty cream. Without wasting time, Rishi sends the sample to a scientist he knows for analysis. The results come back shocking. The cream contains the same mysterious substance that killed the Hollywood actress Olivia at the beginning of the story. Unfortunately, before the scientist can dig deeper into identifying the substance, he is suddenly killed. His body, along with the sample, is dissolved in sulfuric acid, leaving no trace behind. Back at the facility, Yashoda is having lunch again with the other women, and this time she has managed to get the cigarettes from the storage room. But when Teju tries to smoke in the bathroom, Yashoda immediately takes them away, reminding her that smoking is harmful, even if the baby will eventually be given to someone else. Teju gets angry at first, but eventually backs down, realizing that Yashoda is right. After that, the group opens up to each other about their pasts and the hardships that led them to join the program. Teju was never acknowledged by her own parents. Kajal was abandoned by her mother, who worked as a prostitute. And Jenny, who comes off as the toughest among them, is only there because she wants the money to buy a new phone. During one of the routine pregnancy checkups, Yashoda seems to grow a little closer to Dr. Gotham. Whenever he compliments her, he becomes slightly awkward. As time passes, 2 months go by without much notice. Her bond with the other women grows stronger, and she receives constant care from Gotham, who even begins to remember her favorite snacks. Then one day, Kajal goes into labor. The others can only hope that everything goes smoothly. At the same time, Leela grows increasingly anxious as her own delivery approaches. She confides in Yashoda, explaining that she joined the program to pay for her husband's extremely expensive treatment. It was a painful decision, knowing she would have to give up her baby. According to the facility's rules, mothers are not even allowed to see their newborns. All Leela can do now is hope for a chance to see her child, even if it is only for a brief moment. After a tense wait, Madhu finally delivers the news. Kajal's baby could not be saved and had already died in the womb 2 days earlier, while Kajal herself still does not know. Madhu then warns Yashoda and the others to immediately report anything unusual with their pregnancies, so a cesarean procedure can be done as soon as possible if needed. Meanwhile, after the scientist's death, Rishi and his team continue monitoring Sonu's house while reporting everything to their superior, Balaram. But suddenly, Sonu locks eyes with Rishi and subtly signals to a group of hired killers who have already surrounded his car. A shootout breaks out. In the chaos, Balaram ends up in an accident, while Rishi manages to escape. Sadly, one of their teammates is killed, and the next morning, a funeral is held. Not long after, Rishi and Vasudev visit Balaram in the hospital. He shares new information based on data from India's FBI. Olivia had been visiting India regularly, twice a year, and each visit lasted only 3 days. Even more suspicious, there are 122 wealthy women from different countries who follow the exact same pattern. From that list, they discover that on that very day, a woman from Italy is scheduled to arrive in India. Without wasting time, Rishi, Vasudev, and the police team track her at the airport and follow her taxi. At one point, she stops on the roadside and is picked up by another vehicle. The police continue following, but eventually lose her trail in a remote forest. Out of nowhere, a herd of buffalo surrounds their vehicle, forcing them to stop. Local villagers then guide the police to a nearby settlement for safety. But once there, everything changes. Their phones and weapons are confiscated, and they are locked inside a warehouse filled with screens displaying information from all over the world. Back at the facility, Yashoda and the others are informed by Madhu that Kajal has already returned home. The explanation does not sit right with Yashoda and Leela, since someone who just underwent a cesarean operation should not be able to leave that quickly. Determined to find out the truth, Yashoda pretends to faint in her room so she can be taken to Zone 2. Once there, Dr. Gotham attends to her. The moment he leaves, Yashoda notices a nurse wearing Kajal's ring, which immediately raises her suspicion. When the area becomes quiet, she secretly follows the nurse, but Gotham returns and she quickly acts weak again. Still, she manages to notice a room with smoke seeping through the door before being taken back to her room. Later, back inside her room, Yashoda looks again at the pigeon by the window and tries to reach it, but the iron bars block her. She then uses a knife to loosen the screws. When she finally grabs the pigeon, she realizes it is not real. It is part of a screen, just like the city view outside. Even the sounds of the city are coming from hidden speakers. Overwhelmed by the realization that everything around her is fake, Yashoda destroys the screen in frustration. At that same moment, Dr. Gotham instructs Vinny to bring medication to Yashoda's room. Fortunately, Yashoda has already closed the curtains. Not long after, Teju tells everyone that Leela has been taken to Zone 2 because she is about to give birth. Of course, none of them are allowed to enter. But earlier, when Yashoda pretended to feel weak, she had managed to take Gotham's access card. Since she has already memorized the positions of the CCTV cameras along the corridor, she moves carefully and makes her way into Zone 2. Inside, she sees Leela being taken into the operating room. Just as Yashoda tries to follow, Jenny suddenly appears and stops her. She explains that the iron door ahead is secured with multiple layers of locking systems and that several rooms inside are kept in complete darkness. Then the truth is revealed. Jenny is actually working with Madhu. She has only been pretending to be pregnant to monitor Yashoda and the others. Yashoda is immediately dragged into a storage room where Jenny attempts to kill her. But Yashoda refuses to give up. She fights back and eventually overpowers Jenny, killing her in the process. After dealing with Jenny, Yashoda quickly heads toward the operating room, which can be accessed using the card. At the same time, a CCTV guard notices that the storage room door is open and discovers Jenny's body. He reports it to Madhu and is instructed to check the security footage. Unfortunately, Yashoda is briefly seen on camera. Meanwhile, Yashoda enters a smoke-filled room and realizes it is actually a massive freezer used to store the bodies of pregnant women, likely killed after giving birth. She is devastated when she recognizes the bodies of Kajal and Leela among them. Moments later, a guard arrives, but Yashoda manages to escape into another room filled with lockers. Inside, she discovers rows of newborn babies stored after their mothers have died. When she finds Leela's baby, panic sets in as the lights in each locker suddenly turn on. Overwhelmed with fear, Yashoda screams, and the guard quickly locates her and captures her. He ties Yashoda up in a room and prepares to assault her, but she manages to free herself in time and attacks him, killing him before he can do anything. After that, Yashoda uses the CCTV system to zoom in on footage of Madhu entering her office, allowing her to figure out the door code. As soon as Madhu leaves, Yashoda slips inside. However, it turns out to be a trap. Madhu returns and slowly approaches her. Soon after, Dr. Gotham arrives. Yashoda grabs a surgical knife and points it at Madhu, ready to strike. At first, Gotham claims that he is also trapped there and urges Yashoda to kill Madhu. He even retrieves a hard drive from a safe, saying it contains evidence of Madhu's crimes. But in the next moment, he suddenly turns on Yashoda. The truth becomes clear. Gotham has been working with Madhu all along. Yashoda is quickly restrained and tied to a chair. With Yashoda helpless, Madhu begins to reveal the story behind the creation of this horrifying facility. It all started years ago at a university beauty contest in India, where the chief guest was Minister Sudhama. During his speech, he spoke about beauty coming from within, not from makeup or physical appearance. But Madhu, who was a contestant at the time, strongly disagreed. She believed that physical beauty was just as important, pointing to how even their goddesses were always portrayed as flawless. For her, beauty required care and maintenance. Her confidence and intelligence caught Sudhama's attention, and he soon became deeply interested in her. At the same time, Gautam, who was then a brilliant medical student, had already fallen for Madhu. He tried many times to get close to her, but she always rejected him, often mocking his appearance. Then out of nowhere, Sudhama proposed to Madhu, and she accepted without hesitation. With his wealth, she could now afford to maintain her beauty exactly the way she wanted. Before long, Madhu and Sudhama get married. At one point, Madhu asks him to be careful during intimacy because she fears pregnancy will ruin her appearance. But Sudhama ignores her concerns, and eventually, Madhu becomes pregnant. One night, everything changes. Madhu suddenly notices her face aging rapidly. She is diagnosed with a rare condition called Werner syndrome, which causes accelerated aging and can be triggered by pregnancy. Unable to accept her new appearance, she nearly does something irreversible, but she is saved in time. As for Sudhama, once he realizes her condition cannot be reversed through conventional treatment, he slowly begins to distance himself from her. Gautam, however, continues to visit her. He claims that he can restore her beauty through his research in dermatology. He makes her a promise, but only if she agrees to stay with him once the treatment succeeds. Madhu accepts, and he takes her to his modest laboratory. There, he demonstrates how a withered flower can bloom again using a special liquid he has created. Day after day, Gautam works tirelessly, experimenting and refining his formula. Eventually, he succeeds. Madhu not only regains her beauty, but becomes even more stunning than before. But in the end, Gautam is nothing more than a tool to her. Madhu breaks her promise, choosing wealth over him because what matters most to her is Sudhama's fortune. Furious and heartbroken, Gautam lashes out in brutal fashion against Sudhama's men. Then, with a twisted sense of satisfaction, he reveals the truth. Madhu's beauty will only last for 6 months. He plans to sell his treatment at an extremely high price, knowing it will be in massive demand. His goal is to become incredibly wealthy in a short time, believing that once he has enough money, Madhu will finally choose him. Hearing this, Sudhama becomes intrigued. Instead of opposing Gautam, he proposes that the three of them work together. He is even willing to let Madhu live with Gautam if it means building something profitable. In this arrangement, Sudhama becomes the investor, Gautam the scientist behind the formula, and Madhu the face who runs the business. That is how their operation begins. Yashoda is left stunned as she hears all of this. Not long after, Madhu presents her business in front of potential investors. She claims to have created a miracle serum that can keep people young forever. Her clients include powerful individuals from around the world, top CEOs, political figures, actresses, and supermodels. Each of them receives an injection every 6 months to maintain their youth. Madhu also explains a critical detail. Anyone who uses the serum must avoid taking other medications for at least 2 days, or it could result in death, just like what happened to Olivia. Naturally, the investors become curious about the key ingredient behind such a powerful product. The answer is horrifying. The main component comes from fetuses. Inside the womb, they develop without direct exposure to sunlight, and their plasma remains pure. This plasma is then processed through a specialized procedure to create the serum. To sustain this operation, Madhu runs a system that targets economically vulnerable women, luring them in with promises of surrogacy programs and large financial compensation. She is confident that no one will ever be able to expose her, and if anyone gets too close to the truth, she has them eliminated, just like Arushi and the scientist who tried to uncover her secrets. After that, Madhu introduces Dr. Gautam as the mastermind behind the scientific side of the business. He explains that aside from the injectable serum, they also produce a beauty cream called Craft, which is sold cheaply to the general public. Despite its low price, it dominates the market, outperforming competing brands. The wealthy investors, fully aware of the dark reality behind the operation, still agree to partner with them without hesitation. And while all of this is happening, Yashoda has quietly freed herself from her restraints and is already making her escape through an emergency exit. Inside the facility, Yashoda makes her way through a tunnel until she finds a staircase that leads out into the forest. Just as she reaches the outside, a guard dog suddenly chases her. Luckily, the dog is restrained by a leash. She keeps running but ends up at the edge of a cliff. Moments later, Gotham appears and forces her into a terrible situation, giving her three choices. She can be torn apart by the dog, jump off the cliff, or die during a cesarean operation because he needs her baby for a client in Brazil. With no way out, Yashoda is dragged back into the facility. Gotham then begins questioning who she really is and why she came there. At the same time, inside the villagers' warehouse, Vasudev realizes they have been set up from the very beginning. The Italian woman they followed was part of the enemy's plan. He recalls that her suitcase had no label at all, which now seems suspicious. He also starts to suspect that the man who picked her up was none other than Balaram, a high-ranking officer. It begins to make sense, since every time they reported progress to Balaram, something always went wrong right after. Balaram had only recently been transferred to that city, likely to cover up the crimes behind the serum operation. It turns out his earlier accident was staged. Not long after, he walks into the warehouse and reports to Sudhama over the phone that Rishi, Vasudev, and the rest of the police team have been captured. From that conversation alone, Vasudev finally realizes that Sudhama is the mastermind behind everything. Back at the facility, Gotham shows Yashoda the so-called villagers' base, revealing that the entire place actually belongs to him. He then orders Balaram to execute Vasudev first, but suddenly everything shifts. Yashoda pulls a gun on Gotham, a weapon she secretly took from one of the guards.
He's the brains behind the business.
Seeing this through the surveillance feed, Balaram is forced to drop his gun, which is immediately picked up by Rishi. Madhu and Gautam are both stunned when Yashoda begins describing the weapon in precise detail. At that moment, they realize she is not an ordinary woman. The truth is finally revealed. Yashoda is a highly trained police recruit, mentored directly by Vasudev and the top student in her class. However, despite her abilities, she was unable to pass the final stage of the academy because she could not afford to pay a bribe of 20 lakh rupees. Living in poverty with her younger sister Brinda and working as a courier, she had no way to gather that kind of money. When she told Vasudev, he was furious and wanted to confront the corrupt official responsible. But he held himself back, knowing that exposing the corruption could destroy the hopes of many underprivileged youths who still dreamed of becoming police officers. Unbeknownst to them, Brinda overheard that conversation. A few days later, she suddenly disappeared, leaving behind a bag filled with money and a letter asking Yashoda to use it to pay the bribe and achieve her dream. When Yashoda brought this to Vasudev, he immediately ordered Rishi and the team to search for Brinda. Their investigation eventually led them to a suspicious clinic, where it became clear that doctors and nurses were targeting poor women. One of the nurses was interrogated and revealed that Brinda had joined a surrogate program that offered huge payments. She did not know where Brinda had been taken, but confirmed that Brinda had signed a contract to give birth 5 times over 5 years in exchange for 20 lakh rupees. The program was part of a large network involving medical staff, recruiters, and hired thugs, all working together for profit. That is when Yashoda made a bold decision. Even though she was not officially a police officer yet, she chose to go undercover. She posed as a pregnant woman and entered the program herself. No one knows how she managed it, but her goal was clear: to rescue her sister and to save every woman trapped inside that facility. From the very first day Yashoda entered the facility, she had already begun observing everything. She studied the staff's routines, memorized the locations and number of CCTV cameras, and even mapped out the entire place using the bindis she placed on the mirror. At the same time, Gotham secretly orders his local forces to eliminate the police team. A violent shootout breaks out, but in the end, all of the attackers are taken down. Balaram, who is left with no way out, is finally shot and killed. Back inside the facility, Yashoda manages to bring Gautam and Madhu into a controlled situation. But Gautam fights back and even strikes Yashoda hard in the stomach, while Madhu takes the chance to escape. Despite the pain, Yashoda keeps going. She takes down the guards one by one and even manages to shoot Gautam in the shoulder. Soon after, all the pregnant women are gathered in the yoga hall, with Yashoda standing among them. The moment Madhu appears, Yashoda immediately points her gun at her and fires.
அந்த கிருஷ்ண பரமாத்மாவையே வளர்த்த தாய்.
But at that exact moment, the guards rush in, escalating the situation once again. Meanwhile, the police team continues searching for the facility. They move through the nearby forest until Vasudev finally discovers a hidden entrance beneath the ground. The officers storm inside, taking down the guards and rescuing the women from different zones. At the same time, Yashoda and the women from Zone 3 chase after Madhu, who has fled outside. It is then revealed that the entire facility is built inside a mountain. Just as Madhu is about to escape using a helicopter, Yashoda shoots at the rotor, stopping her from getting away. Cornered with no escape, Madhu tries to manipulate the women into letting her go. She even admits that the fetus inside her own body was the first experiment Gotham used to create the serum. The women are overwhelmed with rage, shouting at her until she loses her footing, stumbles over a rock, and falls off the cliff behind her. With Madhu finally gone, the police arrive at the scene, bringing with them a pregnant woman who was about to give birth. It is Brenda. She had been kept in Zone 1 all along. Yashoda is finally reunited with her sister. After that, Vinny steps in to assist with Brenda's delivery. Meanwhile, Gotham tries to escape with the serum, but the police catch him before he can get away. In the end, Brenda safely gives birth to a healthy baby. Sudama is also arrested, and his involvement in the entire operation is finally exposed. The nightmare comes to an end, and justice is finally served. So the moral of the story is, if a luxury program offers you easy money, free food, and mystery pills, just run, or at least read the terms and conditions like your life depends on it.